right, so right now we're inside what they consider a classic unit to this apartment. And as you can see, they've got vinyl flooring down. They've got Formica countertops that have been resurfaced. Some of them have new cabinets, some have the older cabinets, which are just flat fronts. You've got white appliances, and then you've got these type of sink fixtures. Some of them have newer brushed nickel ones, so it's kind of hit or miss. You know, we've taken note of that. And then over here, you see right now it's kind of constructed as almost a studio in a sense, where you don't have an actual door. So what they've done is they've gone ahead and added this wall. They've taken this duct and split it so that you have air going into your room, and then also your living room, and then a door right here. Most of the classic units are like that. You walk in and it has the wall. Very few don't have it. So your bathrooms are very similar to the kitchen, where you have, it's either going to be the old cabinets or some newer ones with the Formica countertop. Every single unit does have the shower surrounds redone in tile. Most toilets are not low flow toilets. So then we've got the electrical panel is in this closet, and this is an old stab lock panel, which they've replaced, I would want to say 98% of them. And they've also said they'll go ahead and replace the ones that we found that were not, because they actually thought all of them had been replaced. So right now we'll go check out what they call an upgraded unit and also a partial upgrade. All right, so now we're inside what they consider a partial upgrade. So what this has is, it's got some newer vinyl planks. It's got a gray tone to it. It's nice looking floors. They put in granite, which is great. Some 2cm granite countertops. They've also put in some backsplash. Now, I have noticed that the colors vary a little bit on the countertops and the backsplash, but overall it's not bad, the color scheme. They've also, for the most part, have put in new cabinets at some point. Some are newer than others. Mostly new white appliances. I didn't run into any appliances that were too beat up. We just had a few that we actually noted to replace. And then you've got light fixtures they replaced in here. And really the only difference between the partial and full upgrade is on the full upgrades, they changed the color scheme of the walls. So they went with a lighter gray, which looks better than this. Right now it's light beige. They did new baseboards throughout, and they also did new doors. So I think they're panel doors, sort of like the front door, to match that. Most of the full upgrades also have washer and dryer hookups, but some of the partials do too. Kind of varies. And overall, I mean, the units are in really good shape. There's not many classics left. Most of them are partial and full upgrades. We didn't run into any major issues when inspecting the interior units. Couple electrical panels that need to be replaced, and you know, some moisture issues here and there, but no down units. So overall, I mean, the interiors are looking good. Here we are upstairs in this partially upgraded unit. This is a townhome, is the style. And in here they've replaced the lights or the fan with a nice looking brushed nickel fan. In the full upgrades, they went to recessed lighting in the kitchen and also in the dining room. They also replaced, so this is the kitchen of a partial upgrade. You've got newer cabinets, you've got the granite, similar to the kitchen. But then in the full upgrades, they put in a nicer light, which I think was a nice touch. Some of them added a recessed light, I believe, in the shower. All right, so here we are in a full upgrade. It's a good looking unit. As you can see, it has granite like the partial upgrades, but they went with a nicer finish to it. It's a lighter tone. And then you've got the backsplash. You've got some nice brushed nickel plumbing fixtures, a undermount sink versus in the partial upgrades, you've got the overmount sinks, which is a nice touch. You've got newer cabinets. They've got even newer cabinets in this in some of the full upgrades. But overall, I mean, it's a nice kitchen. Shows really nice. You've got the vinyl wood planks on the flooring. And then as far as lighting, they decided to come in and do recessed lighting, which I think is a nice touch as well. You've got newer fan brushed nickel in the living room. You've also got light gray tone versus the beige that you had in the partial upgrades, which I also think is a nice touch. Overall, these fully upgraded units show really well. There's also a large number of the units that are fully upgraded. As far as in the bathroom, very similar again to the kitchen. You've got the granite that flows into here with the undermount sink, a nice modern brushed nickel fixture, newer lighting. So in the partial upgrades, they did not change the bar light. Here they did, and they put in a nice light fixture. You've got newer toilets, and then the same shower surround, tile surround that you have in most of the units. And they did add a recessed light. So as far as the bedrooms, no carpet, which they did away with that in the partials, but you know, same thing here in the full upgrade, no carpet. A nice brushed nickel fan, and then they went ahead and they added in most of the unit types a washer and dryer hookup. I also noticed that they redid their closets too at the same time, and a lot of storage. There's some unit styles that have a nice walk-in closet. This one is not one of those, but still they made good space of the closet space. So as of right now, real time, we've inspected 260 of the 280 units. So I can see this and check this all the time through the software we use. And then if I want to see more detail, I can go to our dashboard, and it tells me specific items, like if I want to know what units we haven't gotten into, it can tell me which ones they are and why we haven't gotten into them yet. And then it can also point out, for instance, if the range is coming up constantly that it needs to be replaced, it will show the stat in the dashboard and show how many. Same thing with the flooring or any specific item. So it's very useful. It's information you can take and then import into your property management software, and you can continue to document everything as far as the life of that unit and the upgrades and any appliances and everything. So it's very useful. Overall, this property and the interior units are in very good shape. We've done a lot of interior unit by unit walks, and I'm very impressed with what the seller has done. You can tell that they've put a large amount of CapEx in here. I believe it's about $4.5 million that they put. It definitely shows in the interior units as well as in the exterior. All right, so now we're out here in the exteriors. We do an extensive inspection of pretty much all the major components of the property. So one thing we're gonna pay close attention to are the AC units. As you can see, there's a pretty good mixture of newer and older units. You know, so we're gonna go and we're gonna survey all 280 units, and we're going to give our recommendations on which ones are probably at end of life. Just looking at that one, I might say that, but you know, we're gonna take the year built into account and kind of just the way we see it functioning. That way, ownership can gauge, you know, how many units they might have to replace come next summer when things start heating up, especially here in Houston. Another thing we're looking at on the exteriors is your brick and also your wood trim and your siding. For the most part, this building is in pretty good shape. As far as the siding, all we found is there's a couple lap siding that has kind of slipped and just needs to be resecured, nothing major. There is some trim that's rotted that's gonna have to be replaced. I don't see much here, you know, the soffit right there looks a little soft and rotted, so we'll probably we'll estimate to replace that. We go building by building. We take down the linear feet of how much we're gonna replace, and then we put that together in an estimate for the client. We'll also take a look at repainting the whole property and what that would take and how much that would cost. Another thing on the exteriors is your wall packs. We'll go ahead and estimate to change those out to LED. Going back, I guess, to carpentry, there are some wood rails that need work, and also some of these patios we found, but overall pretty good shape. So now we're gonna take a closer look at the drainage and foundation. So on the drainage, you know, we're always looking at one, obviously the gutters and downspouts. We wanna make sure those are functioning properly. But then we follow the downspout and we wanna know where that water is gonna eventually go, right? So right here's a perfect example. You've got your downspout and you've got all this water sloping towards here and coming down, and it's just going straight to your foundation. This is not what it should be doing. You need to have a way for that water to exit far away from your foundation. At the minimum, you've got to have a splash guard there, and then make sure that there's a path still for the water to travel away from the foundation. So we pay really close attention to that. Overall, this property is in pretty good shape with the drainage and foundation. We just finished taking a close look at it this morning. We found some areas that could use a French drain and things like this where the downspout can be extended. But overall, no major issues there. As far as the foundation, kind of the same story for the most part. The majority of the property is in really good shape, very level when you're walking the units. We were able to pinpoint a couple buildings where we noticed, one from walking the units and also from inspecting the exteriors, that there was some separation in the corners and there was some sloping. So we had our foundation crew here earlier, and they took levels in the units, in the buildings that we noticed were issues. Seems like one may have a plumbing leak, which we're also in the middle of scoping all the plumbing lines. Our plumber started yesterday and should be wrapping it up today. So far they've found one issue, which was in that same building. So it all kind of ties into each other, you know, between your plumbing, your foundation, and your drainage. Those three things really all kind of speak to each other and work together as a system. If one's broken, then essentially you're going to break the other ones. So not only do we want to lift the foundation, we also want to make sure that the water is draining away from it and that there's no plumbing leaks. So as far as this property goes, nothing major. We do think we are going to recommend a couple piers in two of the buildings, and there's also a very large tree that we're going to recommend. That's one thing I didn't mention is, you know, large trees can also cause issues to your foundation and to your walkways. So we're going to recommend to remove that one tree. It's very large, and the roots are already starting to affect the foundation as well as the walkways around it. Other than that, property's in great shape with the foundation, drainage, and also the gutters and downspouts are in good shape. So here we are in the playground area. Wanted to go a little more detailed into the drainage. Saul is going to tell us a little bit about what needs to be done here to correct some of the issues.
So after we inspected it earlier this morning, usually when they lay crushed granite or do any kind of walkway, they put grids on the bottom, A, to compact it and to avoid the washing of the granite later. On this one, at one point when it was installed, it wasn't installed at the proper leveling. So after a wash, the grids are starting to rise because they're not compacted as much. They put the grids where most of the weight goes. Obviously, as you can see here, you got the grids here. They didn't put them here, but all the way around the sidewalk it's lifting up because it's washing away and there's no drainage to it. And it's at one point, even though you got the barriers, it's washing into the playground. So what we're scoping out is we're gonna be using this main grade here, but we're gonna obviously redo some of the granite, maybe compact it, take the grids out, re-level it, sink the grids in maybe about an inch, and then put some more crushed granite in there, and we're gonna run a drain over there outside the barrier and run under it to there, to the main grate. And here, we're possibly gonna raise it with some new bark, maybe an inch. And as you can see, a lot of water is staying in here, George.
Yeah, it's kind of causing a tripping hazard in itself too, being so.
It's unsafe, but the way to fix it here, what we were speaking about this morning was that so you won't clog up the drains, the best way to do is do 15 feet of French drains. They'll last longer. So we do French drains here with an angle, French drains there, and then connect it under there with the level, and that'll avoid, of course, it'd be better if we level it this way. That'll do that. But the main problem here is your grids can become a trip hazard here in another 2-3 months of rain.
Yep.
And those are really pricey, so you definitely want to be able to get the most out of them. So that's really the issue here. We have a couple other drainage areas in the property, but I mean, this is a great amenity to have it like this.
All right, so we're here and we are doing one of the things that I think is one of the most important when doing your due diligence, which is scoping your sewer lines, especially in areas like Texas, which has the soil shifts a lot and you have a lot of cracks in your sewer lines. So we go through and we go as far as we can down the line. You can pretty much visualize and see everything that's happening inside the sewer line. So if you've got any roots that have broken through, you can see that. If you've got any breaks in the lines, you'll be able to see that as well. You know, sometimes you do run into grease in the lines, and ideally it would be best to jet the lines first and then do your scoping of the lines. But during due diligence, you know, that's not available to us. We can't jet the lines. So it still give you a good picture of what you've got going on, especially underneath your slab in the building foundation. So we always make sure to do this every single building, and that way our clients or ourselves know exactly what we're getting into when we acquire these properties. All right, so at this point we've been here for 3 days. We've completed the due diligence for the most part. I think we've currently just doing the termite inspections. We have a very good understanding of where this property sits right now, as far as all major components, all interior units, and also even some cosmetics and upgrades. This specific property so far looks to be a really good asset. It's got some good upgrades. The boiler systems are fairly new. A good portion of the AC units have been replaced. The siding and wood trim on the outside is in good shape. The interior units, for the most part, is in pretty good shape too. The new investment group that's coming in to acquire it is planning on doing some more upgrades on the interior and kind of taking it one step further. You know, there are some things that we were able to find during our inspection that need to be addressed. Some of it is going to be addressed by the seller, and some of it is going to be taken into account in the CapEx. You know, our number one goal when we come out here and do due diligence is to make sure to turn over every rock and make sure we know exactly what's going on with the property and every component of it. That way it can all be included in the CapEx budget. And I feel like we 100% satisfied that in this inspection, and we look forward to doing more.